Man, major breaking news on the WWE front. So breaking news-ish, so crazy that it crashed my previous live stream. But hey, folks, Fred Richani, TSC, your home for pro wrestling news updates, interviews, and everything in between. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Major story from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com, Ryan Satin of ProWrestlingSheet.com, and Dave Meltzer of WrestlingObserver.com. There's actually 3 stories in one here, so let's start with the major breaking news first and foremost. From Sean Ross Sapp, WWE talent say company sent memo about a positive coronavirus COVID-19 test. Now, here's the memo that was obtained by Fightful.com. We have just been notified, and this is from WWE, we have just been notified that, name redacted, was diagnosed with COVID-19. Doctors spoke with redacted this morning and reported they last had contact with anyone at WWE on March 26th at the WWE Performance Center. As you know, redacted is not an in-ring performer, and we believe this matter is low risk to you per the following chronology. Can't read today. The memo stated that the person infected did provide their consent to share their name and status, noting that they're feeling much better. However, for the said person, we'll summarize the next paragraph in saying that the person tested positive for COVID-19 after they and their roommate became symptomatic. Interesting. The memo continued. Those of you who are potentially exposed would be cleared for travel by the evening of Thursday, April 9th, which would have been this past Thursday at the latest, since the last possible exposure to any WWE talent personnel should have been at least 14 days prior. Now, since that report came out, Sean Ross Sapp says WWE has officially confirmed the news to Fightful. That is a massive story. Now, why is that a massive story? Well, one, this person could have put other WWE superstars in danger, and they could still be infected even if they are asymptomatic, as in not showing any symptoms. And 2, here's the other deal. So this is from Ryan Satin, Pro Wrestling Sheet. Positive COVID-19 test confirmed by WWE. Pro Wrestling Sheet has confirmed with WWE that an on-screen talent, so somebody that we actually saw on TV in the company who is not a member of the roster, tested positive for COVID-19, which means at the minimum, there had to be at least some interaction with this person and talent and production personnel over the last 2 weeks. We're told the person tested positive and immediately went into quarantine. Since then, they've been in quarantine the entire time. Sources say the person was cleared of the virus at the end of this week and is now feeling much better. And this is a statement they sent to Pro Wrestling Sheet. Keep in mind, Ryan Satin also works for Fox Sports under the WWE Backstage banner. Quote, a WWE employee has tested positive for COVID-19. We believe this matter is low risk to WWE talent and staff as the individual and roommate became symptomatic. Okay, so this sounds like pretty much the same statement they sent Fightful. But why is this all relevant besides the fact that it's noteworthy that WWE has its first positive test? Here's why it's noteworthy, folks. It's noteworthy because of the fact that Vince McMahon, according to WrestlingObserver.com, wants to keep running live shows. He wants to keep running live events despite the fact that this is a massive pandemic, despite the fact that pretty much every state is in some semblance of a shutdown, despite the fact that Florida is not near its peak and could be peaking in the next 2 weeks. And on top of that, oh yeah, pro wrestling is a combat sport, which means that these wrestlers, these performers, are directly in contact with each other. Shaking hands, hugs, grappling, wrestling, you name it. And they are at a particularly higher risk than other athletes. Never mind the fact that Roman Reigns already said, see you later, I'm going back home, I'm not going to jeopardize my immune system and my family after my ass beat leukemia twice. Never mind the fact that Daniel Bryan has a compromised immune system due to different immune issues over the years throughout his life, dating back to when he was a kid. The fact that WWE is proceeding here is crazy. Now, you might be wondering why WWE chooses to proceed right now. Why WWE sorely wants to keep running shows. One would say it's solely based on the ego of Vince McMahon. And on the surface, you could say, yeah, Vince McMahon's very similar to Dana White. He's very similar to his buddy Donald Trump. He does not like people to tell him what to do, let alone a virus. That being said, here's this major caveat from Wrestling Observer. The decision to not do tapings all weekend as previously scheduled came during the middle of the day while taping SmackDown, as McMahon announced he was changing everything and that the show would be going as close to live as possible, meaning the SmackDown we just had was taped in the middle of the day, and then Vince McMahon said, screw it, let's do it all over live. And here's the other caveat here. Contracts with both NBC Universal and Fox call for a certain number of shows per year that can be taped. For Raw, that number is 3, which at the start of the year was earmarked for 1 show over Christmas week and 2 shows during the European tours. In theory, that would leave them with 49 live Raws. Fox Sports has a similar deal. While nobody will say so publicly, the fear was that by violating the contract, it would give the networks the legal ability to withhold money or find a way to change the deals. With no house shows, the company, like all sports companies, is surviving largely based on TV revenue, but the networks paying that are also taking in far less revenue than they projected at this point in time due to the pandemic. It's unclear whether the decision to return to live is an actual thing that the networks told McMahon to do in recent weeks based on declining ratings, or if he is guarding against the possibility of them doing so. That is crazy, and this report also notes that many in the company were shocked at the decision. Those close to the situation have defended it, and that it was the correct economic decision, even if every decision, and even running at all, has to be questioned right now. If there was ever a time to say this, holy doodle squat. Holy crap. This is crazy. This is insane. There's been a positive test in WWE, yet, they want to keep running shows. And I get the economic situation completely. WWE Vince McMahon, who runs WWE, who also happens to run the XFL, just closed down the XFL. I was told personally by somebody in WWE that nearly 350 employees were laid off on a conference call where they said, yeah, thank you for your time, but we have to let you go, yada, yada, yada. It was cold, it was rude, and they didn't even take any freaking questions. That is insane. That is insane. And the reason being likely because Vince McMahon is scared of the lack of cash on hand. He did just sell a stock a couple weeks ago, which some people found a bit bizarre, but maybe he had an idea that things were tanking. I mean, he is tight with Trump and people in the government, and maybe they gave him that signal. Now, that might be insider trading, but whatever. That's another podcast and story for another day. But the point is, Vince McMahon, I guess, is seeing his company's own mortality. No eerie, morbid pun intended. And he's thinking, oh my God, if this happens, if we don't run all these shows, Fox could take our money, USA Network, NBC Universal could take our money, and then we won't be able to pay anybody. Here's the thing. WWE is still very cash rich. WWE is still worth roughly $1 billion or close to that. Vince McMahon himself is still worth roughly $1.8 to $2 billion. And if Fox and NBC Universal, for whatever reason, don't want to honor their contracts or legally they don't have to, guess what? That's on you. That's not on the networks. That's on you for making a crappy-ass deal. How many years have we seen Vince McMahon and his legal team screw over talent with trademarks, with contracts, with freezing them in place, with keeping Luke Harper on ice, with not releasing the Revival till like yesterday? I mean, how often have we seen that? We've seen it time and time and time and time again, to the point of ridiculousness. So I'm not going to cry for Vince McMahon. But that being said, I do not want to see anybody get laid off. I do not want to see wrestlers lose money. And WWE is in a position right now where they can pay all their staff, where they can pay all their talent. They are in much better shape than a lot of companies that are on the verge of going out of business, okay, and especially small businesses. So I don't want to cry for Vince McMahon here. But there needs to be some type of agreement made. There needs to be some type of setting, some type of Zoom meeting, whatever the case may be, some type of conference call where Vince and these networks get on the damn phone, get online, and talk it out and say, okay, like, are we legitimately at risk of losing our TV money here? Can we get this in writing? Something. Because this is irresponsible. And maybe he's just trying to run these shows because of his ego. Maybe he just wants to run these shows to say, God damn, we're the only sports network running right now. We're the only sports league. Look at us. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe this is just a convenient excuse to keep running shows. But you know what would tank his stock even worse than losing some guaranteed money? a wrestler getting sick, another positive test, multiple positive tests. God forbid, even worse, somebody ending up in the hospital and dying that either works directly for WWE or is related to somebody that works with somebody that's in WWE. That would be tragic. Now, maybe from a pure ruthless business standpoint, they can afford a lawsuit and it's cheaper than losing their TV deal. I don't know. These people are ruthless businessmen and women. I'm not going to try to think out of their own pocket, think out of their own crazy minds here, but I just know this. Every other sport is shut down. Every other sports league is shut down. UFC finally got shut down by ESPN and Disney, which is pathetic that even had to happen. And actually, they technically got shut down by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, according to the New York Times. So, yeah, it's just utterly ridiculous. I do think Vince McMahon should not run shows. If you're going to run live shows, have archived footage. Do like a best of Drew McIntyre one week, best of Brock Lesnar another week, best of Money in the Bank the next week, and just have live interviews via Skype or Zoom on the show. That way you have some live, some taped. At the end of the day, they're still first-run shows. Most people haven't seen the pay-per-views anyway. Most people watch Raw. Nobody's subscribed to a network compared to the amount of people that watch Raw and SmackDown. So why not air archive footage? But if I'm Vince McMahon, if I'm the powers that be, why the hell wouldn't you just get on a call? Get this straightened out. No, let's further contribute to the potential overwhelming of the healthcare system if somebody gets injured. Let's further put all our talent and staff and even Vince McMahon himself at risk by flying all these people out there back and forth. And I think Vince McMahon actually has a home in Florida, but there's other people that may not. There's other people that have to fly in and out. You don't know what other states are going to go on a major lockdown. I mean, it's an absolute mess. When Roman Reigns, the company man, tells people, yo, I'm not coming in. I'm skipping out on the main event of WrestleMania and a massive payoff. That should be a sign. So if you're a WWE talent right now, you better get your head out of your ass and you better stand up for yourself. I'm not saying don't get paid. I'm not saying don't get your money. I'm saying you're well within your rights to say, you know what? I don't feel safe. I'm going to sit this one out, and I should still be entitled to some compensation. Okay? By the letter of the law, you should be. It's utterly ridiculous. Now, look, if you're the Big Show and you're on TMZ and you're saying, hey, I feel safe, I want to compete for WWE, you know what? Be my guest. It's your choice. If you're an adult and you genuinely, like the Big Show, want to wrestle despite a pandemic, go for it. But if you're uncomfortable, and if you're a staff member too, not even just the talent, but if you're anybody employed by WWE in some capacity right now and you feel uncomfortable, I urge you not to work. I urge you to unite, whether it be form a union or at the very least just stand up for yourself. Hell, if you want to work and just get more money, you should be entitled to more money because y'all aren't essential workers and it's BS that WWE is trying to run shows to begin with. Either way, like I said, I don't want to see anybody lose money. I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, but WWE is in a great not great, but they're still in a much better financial position than a lot of companies out there right now, a lot of publicly traded companies. So if it were up to me, delay the shows, hammer out an agreement with Fox, hammer out an agreement with NBC Universal and your international TV partners. That's one of your freaking jobs. Stay on top of this ish and protect your staff, protect your talent, and Vince McMahon, protect yourself, dude. Because I'm sure you want to see your granddaughters grow up, right? What the hell are you doing, man? I don't get it. But folks, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this crazy story? What do you think WWE does next? Do you think these stories that have been broken by these media outlets will seep into the mainstream and will lead to WWE being pressured to not run shows? Do you think NBC Universal, do you think USA Network, do you think that Fox will pull an ESPN and call Vince McMahon directly and tell him to stand down, much like ESPN did with Dana White? Let me know. Leave a comment below. If you enjoy this update, please like, share, take care. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications for more updates like this. And until next time, as always, enjoy the matches and please stay safe.